Good morning, Keller Williams, and welcome back to the KW Command 66-Day Challenge 9.0, and today is day 32. So today we're going to continue our training inside of the Designs applet, but shift into print-based assets. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to create professional and sharp-looking flyers, postcards, bifold brochures, trifold brochures, you name it. There's a whole lot of assets that we can design. So let's dive in. Our Designs applet, the ninth one down, paintbrush and palette. We're going to go into Create Design, and we're going to choose Print Assets. And we click on Next, and we get taken into our WeBrand editor, which is basically just, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze here in a second, the program that we utilize for creating these assets. And you can see on the left-hand side, we've got an entire series of categories. Yesterday, you saw that there was about 15 or 16 email templates. The cool thing with social and print is that there's a whole lot more than 16 different assets you can choose from. So we're going to look at print-based assets first. And you can see mine's going to look a little bit different potentially from yours because I have a leadership-based account. So I've got some assets in here like K-Score, which you probably don't have. But let's dive in. Let's just say listings, right? Just under the listings category, you can see that there are 10 subcategories available, chock full of assets. Let's say you wanted to do maybe it's some door knocking around an open house. So I'm going to come down to open house. And you can see immediately that we've got an entire series of different social assets available for you to select. Across the top here, you can see that several of these are social based, and we'll get into social soon, and then several are print based, right? So door hangers, flyers. Let's say we just wanted to pass out flyers about our upcoming open house. I can click on flyers, and then you can start to see all of the different flyer based open house assets. Guys, this is one category, one subcategory, one design type. So if that gives you any indicator about how many different design assets that you could choose from, it can almost be overwhelming in the best way possible. So in order to go through and edit these, we're just going to start with a flyer. I'm going to show you how to make edits to, let's say, this open house flyer. So I'm going to click on Use, right? That button shows up as we hover over the actual template. And once we do, we get taken into the editor. So inside of the editor, there are several different kind of blocks, kind of like the email blocks we talked about yesterday, just different assets that are in here. So you can see this is a picture frame with a picture inside of it. Then we've got another picture, a third picture. This is a background shape, so you can see there. Then we've got some different text boxes inside of here. So 3 different text boxes, very similar to sort of how the email text boxes were. Down at the bottom, you've got a headshot. We've got 2 different text boxes and then a logo. So in starting to make changes to this, if this was real life, let's say I wanted to start making changes to the photos. The first thing I would want to do on the left-hand side would be to come over to Images. And when I click on Images, I've got 3 options. So I've got a series of stock images, right, that I could utilize if this was kind of a generic post. I could go to Workspace, and these would be assets that I could then find that are more Keller Williams driven, right? So Market Expert, and you can see here's a bunch of different graphs and charts that they've put in here. It could be house interiors, right? Still generic photos, but more real estate focused, real estate based. Then you can see we've got My Assets. And this is where I can upload images to my design account and then utilize those photos inside or with this actual asset. So if we go back, we've also got, you saw text boxes. I can come over to text, right? And if I wanted to add any text, this is how I would do that, right? Is to take a look at all the different texts inside. We talked about the KWDBA name logo. I've got logos over here. So if I click on logos, here's a series of different Keller Williams based logos. And then I also have the My Assets category where you can see different logos that I've uploaded, right, for the different market centers that I'm involved with or have been involved with. Finally, you've got elements. So these are going to be kind of shapes and different whimsical things like that. Again, you can go into Workspace, see some that Keller Williams has created for your use, and then of course My Assets, any that you've actually brought in. You can create QR codes here. You can access the KWLS, and this is important, especially inside of this setup listing, right? So let's just say I wanted to pull up this listing. So we're going to go in, we're going to search the MLS. It's going to say, okay, let me sign in with my credentials. Looks like it's giving me an error on those credentials, not sure why. But essentially, typically that's working. And what it would do is pull in all of the different information. So let's just see if it'll pull up my name as a listing agent. Let's see what comes in. Nope, still going to want my credentials, and for some reason those are coming back as an issue. But this is where you could go in and actually access your listing and then pull in the listing photos. So all of these are completely editable. As we go back to our actual design, I can click on the different things that are inside of it. Right now, right, we've got a black background. Let's just say we wanted that to be a different color. Right, we know Keller Williams prides itself on reds, black, charcoal, gray, but we also allow our agents to have their own, right, their own sort of branding and color palette for their own choosing. So let's just say maybe that's green for you, right? So I could go in and change that background color to green. Now this is getting a little Christmassy, but maybe we want to change the red in this element, right? So I can click on the red here, and I could change that to blue. Maybe we're a green and blue. I could come down to the bottom. I could change this, maybe to go to match that blue. As you can see how you can change the colors. Also on these shapes, you can see you've got an outline. We call that the stroke color. Right now there is no stroke color, but maybe I wanted that to be outlined in black. So you can see now there's a black outline on that actual design. You can also go in and change the style or thickness of that stroke or outline. So we could make it, right? We could make it a lot bigger, a lot smaller. We could change it to dots, dashed, all the different types of different design strokes that you could put in there. We can also come into any of our text boxes. And you can see at the top, we get an option here, right? So this is our typewriter option. This is how we can change the actual text, or you can double click inside of it. I prefer the typewriter myself. Kind of looks like a half open Hershey bar, if you will. And maybe I'm not an all caps kind of guy. Right, so I just wanted to say open house with lowers. Now you can see that that's changed. I can also go in and say I want to center that text. So there we go. Maybe I want this centered on the actual design. You can see my text box is a little wider than the design. I can always click on these white bars and drag that over, and that's going to recenter that. I can do the same thing with any one of these text boxes, right? Just go in. There you go, put in the information. I can change, save changes. I can change both of these paragraphs, right? So I could click on the typewriter and then see what I needed to change there. And then finally with headshot, I can go back to my images, my assets, and I can, if you are hovering over a photo, if you've clicked a photo, and then you hover over one of your photos inside of your assets, you've got three different options. The first option is to add this photo. Now that's going to just drop it right in the middle of your design. Typically not what most people want to do unless they're starting from scratch, so I can delete that. The second option is make it the background. That looks a little weird. Probably not what I was intending, but if you were doing some sort of generic post and you just wanted to have a real estate background, you could maybe do it that way. So we're going to remove image background, right? So click on remove image background, and let's go back to our images. Give it a second here, and oops, let's get out of that. All right, so we should be able to, oh, no, it's not wanting me to. All right, so here's a great use case. I can't figure out how to get that guy out of there. I'm just gonna undo, and then I'm gonna undo again, right? So undo, redo are definitely your friend if you get stuck like I sort of did there without being able to click on the right thing. You can click on undo and that'll help you out. Let's go back to that photo headshot. Let's change it out. I'm going to click on the third option, the circular arrows. That's just a replace icon. That's going to allow me to replace the current image with my image. So there you go. Now you can see my headshot. If I want to make this bigger, I can drag the circles. I can drag the bars. Just be careful on dragging the bar. Sometimes it makes your head look a little fat, things like that. So this one is not going to allow me to resize that way. So there you go. I can reposition that. I can also come into these text boxes and make the same changes as we did above. And then finally, we've got the logo. I'm going to go ahead and hover over my Market Center logo. I don't want to add it. I just want to replace the current one with my logo. So I'm going to click on the circular arrows. And there you go. Maybe I want to make it a little bigger, drag that out, and there we are. Now, if you don't have any logos in your My Assets, you can find those inside of Connect. Get with your Market Center tech trainer or Market Center leadership. If you're not familiar with how to do that, they can walk you through. Hopefully, when you got onboarded, some of these assets were added in for you on your behalf. That's the basics, guys, today. We'll spend another day on print assets tomorrow. The good thing is when we get into the social assets, it's a lot of the same tools. It's a lot of the same techniques. So good news is we'll spend a lot of time inside of WeBrand over the next day or two showing you all of the different features and some additional things that we can do when it comes to photos, etc. So I'll wrap for today. As always, I hope you're having a fantastic day. I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon.